Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em all come down to the den. It's Saturday in Cold Blow Lane.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to a retrospective edition of Achtung, Millwall. We're going to be looking at the Crystal Palace fixture, which is due to be played tomorrow night. But we're actually going to be looking back to a fixture played in the FA Cup in 1950. There's only one man for the job when it comes to historical matters, Millwall. That is the history big dog himself. Woof woof to Neil Fissler. How you doing, Neil? Long time no speak, mate.
Yeah, but just wondering, if you actually remembered who I was, Nicholas.
How can I forget who you are? Oh dear, Neil is one of those unforgettable personalities, listeners. I can't forget that. No, it's good to have you back, mate. Being serious, we're doing a series of looks back, as listeners know, and we tried to look at the forthcoming fixture. Time has been very tight this weekend. What with Charlton on Saturday, and now the Caribou Cup tie tomorrow night. We're recording this Monday evening, listeners. And we play Crystal Palace, of course, in the Caribou Cup round 3, isn't it? At Selhurst Park. So we're just going to be looking backwards, Neil. But I always find the Crystal Palace derby, it always feels a bit more needly to me. I think they're a very different club to Millwall, aren't they, Crystal Palace? Charlton, for me, personally, doesn't have quite the edge that Crystal Palace brings. Would you agree with that?
Mate, I think they're both pathetic, really, aren't they? They're not
in
reliable.
their different ways. I do agree. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the spotters from the weekend, and they're just an odd bunch, aren't they?
They're trying to match them in the banner stakes. I noticed they had a big pre-match banner doing the rounds at the Valley, and they've also gone down the road that Arsenal go down there when they have the big organised free flags waving behind the goal.
It's pathetic, really, isn't it? What happened to the old days? You've just been able to throw stuff
and get frog marched out the home end and put back into the away end. That don't happen anymore.
Yeah, and then we've got the Nigels, and I don't know, what can you say about them? Yeah,
I think it'll all be said tomorrow night, Neil. We were just speaking off air about the impending time. We won't dwell too far on the subject matter, but we can both, all listeners, imagine what might be said tomorrow night. Let's hope the FA gets embroiled in it.
You ever think that Mark Fairbrother's been on to the bank manager to set up a standing order for the fine, hasn't he?
I'm waiting for my please don't shout abuse email. We get one before every game now, I think. We had one before Wrexham. We had one before Charlton. Anyway, there we are, listeners. That's modern football. But we're going to rewind the clock away from modern football, you and me, Neil, back to much more old school times, back to 1950. Going to look specifically at an FA Cup tie played in the first round of the FA Cup that season, 1950-51. In fact, we're going to be looking at two games because the first game between Crystal Palace and Millwall was played briefly on the 25th of November 1950 and was abandoned at 0-0 due to fog, Neil. I've got a match report here from the Sunday Express for the 34 minutes worth of that game. It was abandoned on for fog. Well, I would say it's actually smog. And Neil and I were just speaking before recording, listeners, about the fog stroke smogs of the early 1950s. This would have been probably more smog than fog back then, because the smoke from coal fires would get mixed in with fog and produce quite a deadly mixture. People would die as a result of some of these heavy old school pea super fogs, and this is certainly what affected the game in the first game before the second game would go in our favour. But so yeah, abandoned after 34 minutes. I'll read this short paragraph, Neil. That's on the Sunday Express of the Sunday, 26th of November 1950. They say, from what could be seen through the fog wall, Millwall had the better of play, writes Bernard Slidell. Graham, the Palace goalkeeper, was hurt after 3 minutes when he dashed out to stop Jones. There's nothing new. Constantine, that would be Jimmy Constantine, we will come back to, playing centre forward with Neary at inside left, did some tricky work, identifiable only by his waning thatch. Waning thatch, that's his hair for any kids listening. He's losing his hair, basically. His waning thatch, moving continuously. Generally speaking, there was nothing in the Palace attack to cause Millwall any loss of sleep before Wednesday, when the game will be replayed. But if Constantine repeats once or twice the slash-bang effort he made just before Mr. Ellis led the way off the field, the New Cross boys should eliminate the or in tomorrow's draw. Much more florid style of writing back then. Would you write a report like that these days?
Probably not. Well, for some of our older listeners, Mr. Ellis was actually Arthur Ellis.
Was it him? I was going to ask you. Yeah.
From It's the Knockout.
It's a knockout. Kids are going to need to explain what It's a Knockout was, and Arthur Ellis was the referee, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. I think the best thing to describe it was a competition, Town versus Town, wasn't it?
Yeah, Village v Village. Yeah.
And you competed in all kinds of events, didn't you?
It was a bit like a village fete in a way, with games featuring buckets of water. You had to dash back and forth and fill up a large measuring vessel of some sort. Often in fancy dress or with oversized boots on or stuff like that. This was TV entertainment list.
1950s style, really, wasn't it?
And it was called It's a Knockout, and I think they had Sex Pests presenting it. Didn't they have Stuart? Well, what was his name? Stuart Hall.
Stuart Hall presented it, I think, and well, I always remember Arthur Ellis because he was an old tubby guy.
Rugby league. I thought it was Eddie Waring, the rugby league guy. They brought him in, didn't they?
Yeah, and it was. It probably drew huge numbers.
It was required viewing, especially when the British rounds were called It's a Knockout, and they were literally a series of contests, always involving either funny, dress or buckets of water, invariably. Whilst Stuart Hall laughed at the most inane things. But then when it went international, Neil, it became Juste en Frontière, didn't it? And you used to get these kind of beautiful Italian villages and floodlit town squares. And it went up a level, didn't it? And we never won.
Yeah, this was but he was actually the referee for that. I believe he refereed the cup final. And
did he not referee in the World Cup at one point?
I think he did. I think he used to have his. I probably actually got his autobiography somewhere, but it was just when I was looking at this earlier on, I noticed A.E. Ellis and thought, oh yeah, that's old Arthur Ellis.
Quite a character, listeners. For anyone who doesn't remember him, he's quite a character. And he led a fairly extensive football life, and then finished up on TV, where he probably achieved more fame than the most, kind of like Garden Fate type games that was presented as TV entertainment. Such.
It was a bit like Mark Clattenburg, isn't it? Yeah, wasn't he appeared on Gladiators?
Yeah, it was that kind of level. I think Gladiators outdoes it in terms of gloss and glitz and glam. This was very much like your Village Fate. And presented on TV, but anyway, there we are. 0-0, 34 minutes from the first game, so it was actually replayed on the Wednesday. This was the era before floodlights, so it was a 2:15 Wednesday afternoon kickoff for the replay, which would finish as a 4-1 win for the Lions. They described here in the Daily Herald as a cup tragedy for Crystal Palace. They never recovered from missing a penalty 17 minutes after the start when they were bang on top, says Chris Bale of the Daily Herald. Finished up losing 4-1 to Millwall. They also hit a post. He hit a post from the spot kick. They've done everything but score, he says. But that penalty miss took much of the heart out of Palace, and Millwall, taking a new lease of life, went ahead through Johnny Johnson, and by the interview were 2 goals up with a second goal from Morgan. Morgan is Stan Morgan. Sorry, I was going to say Frank Morgan. Stan Morgan. And Palace staged a great interval rally, and even after Frank Neary put the third on for Millwall, they were always fighting back. The goals just wouldn't come, however, and Jimmy Constantine beat 4 man beating to score the best goal of the game. Palace had it. That's a great turn of phrase. I like that. A muddy pitch. Hero of the grand and thrilling cup battle was little Noel Kelly for Crystal Palace. On a mud heap of a pitch, Neil, he ran himself to a standstill, but had just enough strength to score a despairing last-minute goal. How he deserved it! Exclamation mark, says Chris Bale. I think he's a bit of a Palace fan, this bloke. Kelly's was the best forward display I've seen in this class of soccer this season, and one wonders why Arsenal allowed him to leave Highbury for Sellers Park last year. Once Mill got over their opening jitters, manager Charles Hewitt is now convinced that these boys have a good run in the cup. Frank Neary got through a lot of work and is still seen as one of soccer's best comedians. A comedian, you don't get that anymore in football. You don't get comedian goal players. But the chief schemer behind the Millwall victory was Jimmy Constantine, who picked up more mud than any other player on the field. And there's a great picture of Jimmy Constantine mudlarking forward, as they put it here, going up for a header. So it would finish 4-1. Sound like some real characters back. Known as a comedian and a player, I think it's quite something. You just don't see that in the game anymore.
No, especially when you read that match report and you'd never have known that the Nigels had to apply for re-election that season after finishing bottom of the Division 3 South, and it was actually one of our better seasons.
Yeah,
I think that game was played in November. I think you said, didn't you?
Yeah, November. Yeah.
Start. I think we'd only lost 3 games, and we'd lost the game before. I think it was against Aldershot. I was reading earlier on. But don't forget, this was a time in Millwall's history when we'd applied for re-election after finishing bottom of Division 3 South the season before. And it was kind of, I think Millwall were fearful from what I was reading that Charlie Hewitt, obviously controversial, was fearful that if we actually got relegated or if we got voted out of the Football League, that it would take us some time to get back in, because I think that Gillingham were elected into the league that year, and they'd been elected out of the league sometime before. So the moral of the story is the Football League actually missed their chance to get rid of Millwall for once and for all. we hadn't actually annoyed enough.
No, I never thought of it that way. I mean, the system back then, obviously the third division was divided into northern and southern sections, and the bottom 2 in this season here, 1950-51, was rock bottom of Crystal Palace, with Watford one place above them, and then Gillingham, as Neil has just said. But you basically had to apply to be re-elected to the league, and sometimes, not very often, but sometimes clubs could be voted out, and a decent non-league side would come in. I think Peterborough came in that route, Neil, didn't they? In the in
Yeah,
the
and
50s.
Oxford. It was very, very, very political.
Yeah,
That votes would be horse traded off, and
yeah.
if your chairman got along with the other chairman, i.e., he gave them presents.
Yeah, I mean, they used to call it the Old Pals Act, and nowadays we live in an era where there's relegation and promotion based on league table merit from the non-league, from the national league, and same into the national league. There's a pyramid. Didn't really exist back then, Neil, did it? You had various. Southern League was the big one down there. There's a Northern League was, and basically teams had to, as you say, you're right, horse trade their way to gain enough votes to be elected in or potentially out of the football league. And we dodged a few bullets. I think we were re-elected a couple of times in this year. This was a very tough time for Mill. Post-war, we'd taken a pounding in the Second World War, obviously. And when you see the photos of the early teams after the war, Neil, I mean, the den looks shattered, and the teams are wearing odd, different design kits because they've just got like shirts, what shirts they have, rather than a unified style. So it wasn't an easy time for the Lions at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. I think we were expected to win promotion to the first division until Mr. Hitler decided to invade Poland.
Intervened. Yeah,
But to actually put an end to our dreams, I still maintain it was a conspiracy. Then
Hitler and the Football League in collusion.
Yeah. We got relegated in 48 from the second division. We never really recovered.
No.
A lot of years. I think, the ground was in smithereens.
Well, there'd been a bomb in one. I think we'd had the fire. We'd had the big grandstand built pre-war, ready for the first division football. That burned down in the Second World War.
Yeah.
And then there was the famous bomb. Great photograph of the bomb hit Den, isn't there? At the club.
Then we applied for re-election in 50.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the season before we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think 56 we finished 22nd in the third division.
We had to reapply a couple of times. So as you rightly say, they had their chances to get shot of us and they never took it.
And then we obviously ended up in the fourth division after finishing 23rd in 58. So it wasn't really until I think 61, 62.
Yeah, we came good. The 50s were, the late 40s and the 50s were very tough times at the Den. This was one of our better seasons, as Neil has said. Would finish fifth in the third division south. Not good enough, because only the champions of that league would get promoted. This season, that was Nottingham Forest would get promoted.
Yeah, it was 70 points. I think we were.
Yeah.
I think we were 13 points behind them, so that's 6 wins, isn't it? And
2 points for the win back then. But yeah, it was some way off of it. But decent season, some big crowds when you look at it. I mean, this particular game that we're talking about here, the 4-1 win at Crystal Palace. There's a Wednesday afternoon list. There's 2:15 kickoff on a Wednesday afternoon, Neil, but still drew 14,800 to Selhurst Park. I mean, the crowds back then were in that post-war boom, weren't they? I think people were just hungry for entertainment, and it wouldn't just be football. It'd be we'll come back to greyhounds and fog in a moment after we've done the football part. Speedway was huge back then, and there was a lot of. I mean, cricket would draw big crowds back then. There was just people just hungry for entertainment after the conflict, and you can understand that. But yeah, this would finish on a Wednesday afternoon in Selhurst Park. No fog this time on the 29th. 4-1 win. Goals from Johnson, Morgan, Neary and Constantine would put Mill into the second round. We would exit the FA Cup eventually, Neil, in this season. In January 1951, at home to Fulham, a 1-0 loss to Fulham, in front of the incredible crowd, 42,270 in Coldblow Lane. 42,000 people. Not the record, of course, but can you imagine 42,000 in the old ground?
You wouldn't have been able to have moved, would you? It would have been.
You would have moved when they moved. It would be you had no control over your movement. That's for sure.
Sways, weren't there? But I think that's. I think applying for re-election actually actually gave Millwall a kick up the backside I think they needed, because Charlie Hewitt said never again will we apply. Obviously, he was wrong.
Not quite never again, but he gave it a good go this season, didn't he?
But we bought in Jerry Bauer, who I think we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Which, when I was reading this, we actually mortgaged our gates for the first 10 games of the season to cover his transfer fee.
Did we? Wow.
Which was quite something.
I wonder if that would impress the internet juries of today to spending. I don't know.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at nflsundayticket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder, because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here. Made for your chicken favorites at participating McDonald's for a limited time.
Achtung, Millwall.
Frank Neary as well from QPR that season. So
yeah, it was mentioned in the report. We'll come back to Frank Neary. He's for anyone who doesn't know, Frank Neary is a wonderful photo. Absolutely, you've got it in your book, Neil. I've seen it elsewhere, but it's a great photo of Frank Neary in the Mill dressing with looks like a woodbine stuck in his mouth whilst he's tying up his boots, having a fag. It's wonderful, isn't it? This is a different era of football. But then these would have been men that would have come through the Second World War, Neil, and they knew what hardship really looked like, didn't they? So they
were players that would have travelled on buses to the games with your average fan.
Yeah,
you can't imagine Mr. Ivanovic after his performance last.
Put him on the 129 bus and me going. He would have found out his match day assessment. That's for sure. Let's run through the team for this 4-1 win at Selhurst Park. Millwall team here, listeners. Ted Hinton in goal. Alex Jardine, famous name here, George Fisher. John Short, Jerry Bowler, Frank Reeves, John Johnson, Jimmy Constantine, Frank Neary, Stan Morgan, and Johnny Jones. I thought we might just run through, as we like to do on these shows, listeners. I just picked out 3 names. I've heard of Jimmy Constantine, I've heard of Frank Neary. I hadn't heard, in all honesty, that's why I picked Jerry Bowler out, because it wasn't a name that I knew of, Neil. But I thought we'd start with James Joseph Jimmy Constantine, centre forward. What a record. 153 games for the Lions, Neil, between 48 and 52. 83 goals. That's a pretty strong hit rate, isn't it?
It is. And he was somebody who, I think he settled in Kent and he was a regular.
Yeah.
As far as I know, pretty much up until his death.
Yeah, he was born in Ashton-under-Lyne, which is up near Stoke, I think, around that way in the Potteries.
It's away, isn't it?
Yeah, 1920s, born in 1920. He passed away in Pembury, as Neil has said, in Kent, 1998. He would have been aged 78 there. What a wonderful career here. Listen to this, listeners. The Grenadier Guards was his career. Then Ashton National as a guest player. That had been wartime football. He played at Rochdale, Manchester City in April 1945. Bury, then he was player exchanged to Millwall 1948. Then finished his career at Tunbridge as a coach, I guess as a player, that coached 1955 to 62. Just read out the pen picture from Neil's book here, Great A to Z. I think you've got an updated version coming out, Neil, haven't you? The Millwall A to Z. Did I hear you say that a while ago?
It's
No.
being worked on, but
Being worked on.
it needs.
Well, no pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, there were a lot of amateur players
Right.
we wanted to include from the early 1900s.
So keep your eyes out for that one, listeners. I mean, I can recommend it. It's a great resource. I couldn't do these shows without it, to be really honest. But the pen picture from Neil's book here, from the A to Z of Millwall players. Connie, James Constantine, Jimmy Constantine. Connie scored hat-tricks in Manchester City and Bury in successive seasons before he was signed by Jack Cock in exchange for Bob Kelly in 1948, after we were relegated to the Third Division South. Jim was a thorough gentleman, but as hard as nails. That's a winning combination at the Den, isn't it? On the pitch, he was the leading scorer for 3 successive seasons, holding the club's scoring record until Derek Posse. He was also a Kent Challenge Cup winner. He finished his career with Southern League club Tonbridge, and settled in the town where he worked as a chlorinator tester at Wallace and Tiern's until retirement. No glamour retirement back then for players, was it? He was a regular at the old and new Den up until his death. That's a wonderful, wonderful little picture of a man, and nice photo of him. He does look hard as nails, but they all seem to back then. But he especially does now. And what a scoring record! 83 goals from 153 games for Jim Constantine. Yeah, finished. No, post game, you finish up as a chlorinator in a restaurant.
Yeah, to be fair, I think he was probably, unless somebody wants to correct me, he was probably our first post-war star, if you like.
Yeah.
Obviously, a very, very, very good player, and they were back then. But you tend to find your level, don't you? And I think he found his level with us down here.
As many would do. They find their theatre at the Den, don't they? Some players do, some players don't. Jimmy Constantine was one that did.
It can make or break a man, can't it? And I can imagine the crowds probably aren't too dissimilar back then to they are now.
Quick to criticise if they perceive any hint of weakness in a player. You can't. Just going back to the Charlton game for a moment, I think one of the players that stood out for me was Idamoe Marku, who never gives you anything less than 100%. He might be the best player we've ever seen in a Millwall shirt, Neil, but he always gives you 100%. He tackles back, and he looks like he wants to use his physical power to make something happen. That's the kind of player, for better or for worse, that we take to it at Den. I think Jimmy Constantine, in his way, in his time, was of that kind of ilk. Never less than 100% kind of player.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've just written a book on the 61-62 promotion-winning season that I'm just editing.
Right.
And even then, a promotion-winning season, if the crowd wanted to voice their displeasure, they did, and they did it with slow hand clapping.
You don't hear that anymore. I remember the slow hand clap from when I first started going in the early 70s. It seems to have faded away now in favour of just sheer abuse. But the slow hand clap was the favoured route that you let the team know that they weren't playing very well.
Yeah, but it was kind of overtaken when people used to shit.
Yeah, that's so. Bring back the old days. Bring back the slow hand clap.
Yeah, whenever that went around, you knew.
Well, you weren't doing very well. No.
Really good, was it? But the slow hand clap, that's something that needs to be revived.
Revive it, I say, kids. They won't, but there we are. Harold Francis Neary is my next choice. Frank Neary, with the man with the fag hanging out of his mouth. A comedian, as he was described on in the report. I think it might do him a bit of a disservice from the playing perspective, because he scored 59 goals from 142 games, which is a pretty good hit rate from a career from 1950 to 54 with the Lions. Born in Aldershot in 1921, passed away in North Cheam in 2003. Quite a widespread career. I won't read all the clubs, but I'm seeing QPR, Leyton Orient, West Ham, QPR again, Millwall, Gravesend and Northfleet. Quite a wide spread of clubs for Frank Neary.
He was signed at the start of that season.
A crowd favourite, Neil, by reading your piece here.
Yeah, definitely. He was signed that summer when we needed to get a centre forward in.
Yeah.
And we needed a decent centre forward. And he came in. I forget how many goals he scored that season. I think he
He's
scored
prolific. I mean, 59 from 142 games overall. I don't know about this particular season, but in fact, I can tell you because I've got it on my list here. So the 1951, 50 to 51 season, Jimmy Constantine, who we've just mentioned, was top scorer for the season with 28 goals.
Yeah.
With Frank Neary chipped in with 23 this particular season.
23 was it? I thought
Yeah.
it was 19, but
there's a front two with what's that, 40, 50 goals between the pair of them. That would be valuable in the modern game, wouldn't it, if you had those players now?
Can you imagine if Ivanovic and Coburn got
One
50?
would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, let alone 50 between the pair of them. A crowd favourite, I'm just picking out the final para of Neil's piece here. Crowd favourite, he topped the line scoring charts in 1952. After his career, Frank Neary went into non-league coaching with Tonbridge, I think we mentioned, and management, whilst working in the print for the Sunday Times until retirement. His son, Dennis, also was a centre forward, played non-league football. One of the names of the club, really, Frank Neary. He's one of the standout names, I think, of the club's. There's a kind of a top table, and he's very much in the next rank down, I think. But he's a good player for us, Frank Neary. And then we come on to Jerry. Is it Jerry Bowler? Gerald Columba Bowler, centre half, was named in this particular game. Born in what should we call it? It's born in Londonderry or Derry. Take your pick, listeners. I don't choose. 1919, 184 games for us as centre half. Having a career coming in from Derry City, Distillery, Northern Irish Football, Pompey, Hull, Millwall, and Crawley and Horsham. Northern Irish International for us, Jerry Bowler. Not a name I knew, I'll be honest. It's one of the reasons why I chose it, because I thought I don't think we've mentioned him in previous shows. I thought it was a nice chance to mention him now.
Yeah, well, APV Crawley, not to be confused with Crawley Town.
Oh, okay.
They were a works team.
Right.
In and around that area. It cost us £11,000, which was a considerable sum of money.
Yeah, Neary, who we've just been speaking about, cost £6,000, princely sum. So Jerry Bowler came in for near twice that, which is, as you say, it was a fairly large investment at the time. Making his debut against Exeter City in this particular season, near ever present in the 3.5 years of his 5 seasons at the club. He represented London in a representative 11 against the Diable Rouge in Brussels. That must have been the representative Belgian side. Diable Rouge.
Yeah, that would have been the London FA.
Yeah.
That was a game that I think they played once a year.
And played Frankfurt as well, for London versus Frankfurt at Highbury, 1953. And then, as you say, he settled in Crawley, working for pump manufacturers APV Crawley, which is a firm works side. Then Beecham's, and was steward at Crawley BEA, British European Airlines, for any kids out there, Silver Wing Club, and latterly worked for Forte's restaurant at Gatwick Airport. What interesting careers players just to have, didn't they? Wonderful.
Well, that's what's so interesting about these players is actually their pre-football careers. 9 times out of 10, they had a job.
Yeah.
And then what happened to them when they finished playing football? There was none of this influencer nonsense.
Podcasting.
Podcasting and commentaries on
joining Mr. Beast and the Sidemen for some stunt somewhere. No, it was working at Gatwick Airport in Jerry's case, and for proper companies. Beecham's big name back in the day. I felt fascinating.
Well, we're talking about that Crystal Palace game. There was actually a couple of Millwall players playing for Crystal Palace that day.
Was there? I didn't pick up on that.
Charlie Bumstead, the goalkeeper.
Okay. Ex-Millwall, yeah.
Yep. And Les Stevens played for them as well.
Another ex-Millwall player. Wow.
Who was around, certainly, in and around that time. we're talking about interesting jobs. Charlie Bumstead, I believe, was a gas meter. He emptied gas meters basically.
Coin operated gas meters for any youngsters listening. You had to put 50 pence in it.
Yeah.
Get your gas, turn a dial.
Oh, well, that's what he did. He emptied them for a living.
Fantastic.
I believe.
I actually had to empty a gas meter when I first started working for a landlord in the early 90s. They had properties out at Windsor where the electric for the hallway of they're like upstairs, downstairs flats in old houses. So the staircase had a electric supply of its own with a coin operated meter at it. And so people had to, when it ran out, had to put 50 pence in there. And my job was to go down there every 6 months and empty the the electric meter out of coins and bring it back and cash it up. So that's I have empathy for that career choice there. Because I've been there.
You were really clever, Nick, when you had those meters. I'm just saying for a friend. you used to put, you can actually put a knife in the back of it.
You could.
Flip it up and down, and it would give you a.
You could.
More.
If you were really, at the kind of diabolical level as well, you could. Once they did away with the coin meters, you could. They've made out of plastic. If you drilled the tiniest little hole, and I'm speaking this as imaginary. If you drilled a tiny little hole in the crack between the top part and the bottom part of the meter, you could place a needle through it and stop the wheel from going round. But it had to be a good hole because it had to look like part of the corrosion of an old meter. It couldn't be an obvious hole because that would be easily identified as fraud. But if you had like a hole that looked like it could be just part of the cracking of an old meter, you could put a needle through it and stop it going around. I understand, listeners. I understand.
Yeah, well, not that we would ever condone that kind of thing.
Well, we can't condone that. No. Thankfully, the person that did it is no longer with us, so he can't be done for it. 56 years later. Oh dear, Neil. I have, before I let you go, I have to mention my love. Doing these shows is a labour of love, listeners, because you get to look at local newspapers from years gone past, and there's some just simply wonderful reports of what would pass for news. And in this case, the South London Observer, which had been a rival, I guess, to the South London Press. Wonderful story of an incident at Coldblow Lane. The headline of the paragraph: "Hot at Coldblow Lane." They caught my eye. Next to an advert for a suit of utility material, which was a post-war. Everyone had the same suit because there was only one type of material allowed. But anyway, the Hot at Coldblow Lane refers to clothing catching fire in the laundry or in the bathroom, the laundry at Millwall Football Club. The ladies there, I guess the ladies, left the washing out in front of a burning gas jet. It caught fire. I don't know how much damage it done. It doesn't dwell on the amount of damage caused to the club laundry. Clothing which was airing in a bathroom at Millwall Football Club, Coldblow Lane, New Cross, caught alight from a burning gas jet on Monday. It's a paragraph that leaves you wanting to know so much more about what happened, what went up in flames, but it doesn't go into that kind of detail, unfortunately. So yeah, wonderful story. The other thing that I saw there was fog. We were talking about fog earlier on, listeners. This is, I mean, you've worked in local journalism, Neil, but I think to scratch out a story from there being no crashes as a result of fog is really going some. I mean, it's the classic: is it man bites dog or dog bites man? No fog crashes were reported in Camberwell, Peckham, or Dulwich on the weekend of the fog that we've mentioned. The big story was that Catford Greyhounds got cancelled. And the patrons then had to hot-foot it to New Cross, which had bizarrely survived the fog and actually had greyhound racing on. So they had to get the bus up from Catford to New Cross to get their greyhound racing done. That's a story, a story in the local paper. No incidents to report.
Yeah, well, that would have been given
space filler. No, yeah, boy bitten by dog. Boy bitten by dog. This is a story.
But there was always something quite spooky. I can remember when I lived in the East End. The fog, you didn't get it often, but I'm talking the early late 90s, early 2000s. You got it every now and again.
Yeah, you would get fog. You don't seem to get them anymore, do you? In the same way.
Very, very, very eerie and spooky, and
Yeah.
you almost went out to walk in it just to see what it was like.
Silence would descend on the city, and if you drove, I mean, I remember in the 80s, it was the last time I remember a fog, anything like what would have headed off this game, but I don't remember one since. To be really honest, it goes quite quickly these days. But you put your headlights in the car, and of course you can't see more than a few feet in front of your car. So driving in it was murderous. It doesn't seem to happen anymore. Back then, it would have been a mixture of coal smoke and fog. But yeah, no, there were no crashes. So drivers back then must have taken it very, very carefully. And hopefully the punters at Catford got up to New Cross and got their money on. I can't let you go, Neil, before there's a story that my eye is drawn to. This is nothing to do with football, listeners. This is the sad story of John Hennessy of Hillingdon Street in Walworth, who was found arrested on the premises feloniously breaking into a shop. And on his committal, he's told the court, I have heard the evidence. It is quite right. I am guilty. This is his dialogue in the court. He continues, I only wanted a few bob. I lost my job yesterday. I wanted to get back to Ireland. I heard two blokes at the Elephant talking about this shop, this place, and they said it was an easy place to do. I think John's going to go down there. I can't see him coming back from that, can you?
No, I think that John...
He's talked himself into a guilty plea there.
He's talked himself into a one-way trip, hasn't he? Not right.
He was found by a police sergeant in a tobacconist's just after midnight, having climbed through a window, and he's basically admitted it, lock, stock and barrel. Wonderful stories.
But when the police actually walked around the streets, and if you were out at night, they generally stopped you, and you have to watch The Blue Lamp and things like that. You watch films, and it is a snapshot of what England used to be like, or Britain used to be like, London used to be like. And if you're out after dark or out at night, they stopped you. And
I questioned you. That's right.
Yeah, but this is a hint for the police of these days, isn't it? Really?
Well, absolutely. If you've got uniforms on the street looking for things, you will find it, it seems.
What happened to him?
I'll have to follow it up. I don't know. This is just, I caught my eye. I'm just looking at the no fog crash reports, and then this is a little story afterwards. I'll later on, because we can't really leave that story hanging. John Hennessy is committed for trial, so I'll type his name in later, and I'll let you and listeners know next time we do a show like this, Neil, what became of him. I can't imagine him getting away with it, not having said I only wanted a few bob to get back to Ireland, and they said this shop was an easy place to do, so he's talked himself into some time, I'd say. There we are.
Yeah, but that would have been hard labour, probably, as well.
I'd imagine. Wouldn't have been easy. Neil, it's been a pleasure, mate. This is ahead of tomorrow night's game against Palace. Let's hope for a win. It's only the Caribou Cup, I know, but it'd be nice to put one over on Crystal Palace. So fingers crossed for tomorrow night. Big thank you, Neil. Thanks for joining the show again, mate. Good to see you.
Mate, it's always a pleasure, never a chore, as they say. I love doing these things when we can step down memory lane, can't we? And
Absolutely, and consider the cases of the ladies who set fire to the football kit at Coldblow Lane. There we are. To the next edition from Neil and myself, it's Arrivederci Millwall. Come on, you Lions, tomorrow night. Bye for now.
Let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em all come down to the den.
Who do you want to watch?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.